Hey, everybody, and welcome to How to Make Films and Influence People with Peter and Andrew, where we talk about our own approach to screenwriting and filmmaking, discuss great works of cinema, and blasphemously imagine how they could be remade. This week, we'll be talking about the Battle of Algiers and giving an update on our current screenplay project that you, the audience, has been contributing to. But first of all, I'm Peter, successful filmmaker, film professor, and screenwriter.
And I'm Andrew, successful filmmaker and screenwriter, but not a professor out of choice.
We wanted to update everyone on our screenplay project and the status of the listener poll. Our script that we're working on, what we're calling the Reverse Robbery Project for now, it's definitely not the actual title, but we had you, the listeners, vote on a character name, the Old Lady Neighbor. And the top three vote getters were Gladys, Beverly, and Helen. And the winner, after a lot of votes from you, the listeners, was Helen. Helen. So that's the character's name. All right, we're gonna work that into the script. So thank you to everyone who voted. We're going with Helen, and let's just chat a little bit about her. Who is this character, Helen? What role is she serving in the story? Who is she as a person? What's your take on that, Andrew?
Well, very importantly, she is an old lady, and so I think this is a perfect name for our character here. She's lived in the neighborhood a long time, and our couple, yet to be named by you, the audience, I believe, unless we're going without the audience on this one. But they run into her, and she is very opinionated. She is someone that isn't fond of new people moving in, and she does have an important role to play in how the story unfolds. I think she's a fun character, although not too central to the plot, but as a side character goes, it's very fun.
Yeah, I think she's a side character for sure, but I think plays an important role. And I think this is, in our approach to screenwriting, something we talk about is how the character, we want the character as we think about them to serve sort of two different purposes, or the way that we approach the character to serve two different purposes. That it's both what role do we need that character to serve in the story, and then also, if we're imagining that person is a real person, who would they be? And I think this is something where a lot of writers go wrong, beginner writers or people who are maybe struggling with getting their writing off the ground, but also a lot of Hollywood veterans too, I think, struggle with this. But where sometimes people make a whole backstory for their character, and they, this is what Helen did as a young child, and that's how it shaped her today, and this is her favorite foods and her opinions on war and tariffs and whatever. Like, this is Helen, every different aspect of her as a person. But some of that is just sort of wasted if you're not focusing on what role does she serve in the story and what role do you need her to serve in the story. And I think on the flip side, you sometimes get people where they'll make a character and they haven't even thought about who they are as an actual person or who would be like that. They're just saying, we need somebody to be the neighbor who knocks on the door. And so the whole entirety of this character is that they knock on the door. And like that's not really the good approach either. So I think what we're trying to do is get it from both angles. And that's why I love Helen. And I think we're working on that from both sides.
She's a very a balanced character, not too well written that she becomes the focus, but not so unwritten that she's only the neighbor who knocks on the door and maybe gets locked in the bathroom.
Yeah, I think that's key too. Like, you want to have in your mind, who is this person? If challenged, who would be this person? Does it make logical sense that somebody would act like that? But at the same time, the audience doesn't actually care about all of her backstory, so we don't need to include that. But I think it's a good thing to have in the back of our minds as we write. So that's our approach to Helen and our approach to writing, and we'll keep you updated as we go through the screenplay. And I think this is wonderful to have you, the listeners, involved as we work on this, as you get to see the progress of this script and be involved in making some of the decisions about how it goes. So looking forward to more progress on that front. All right. So what have you been watching lately? What have you been checking out?
As you know, I do a lot of sitcoms, usually in the evening, and it's usually something we've already watched before. I don't know why, but we always come back to stuff. And lately we've been doing the 9-9. Have you seen that one?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Everybody's seen that one, I feel like.
I feel like that's a pretty, I've only seen like the first season though. I didn't really watch it live, and then I haven't really watched it all the way through.
Yeah, it's on Netflix. And yeah, it's just a great comedy about good people that ends satisfying. Like, it's always a good conclusion. It's funny, it's satisfying. It doesn't leave you in a dark place at the end of it. And that's really what we go for at night.
I like that as a show, like as a kind of template for a show, because it has a built-in sort of structure to it. I guess I don't know. I haven't seen that many episodes, but it seems like there's generally like a case that they're solving over the course of the episode, even though that's not really what the fun of the episode is. It seems like there's some kind of structure to, like as opposed to a sitcom where it's like we're getting into shenanigans, and we have to force some kind of plot into it. It seems like we'll have the plot guaranteed with the police side of things, and then we can just have fun with the shenanigans without having to feel sort of phony in the way that the plot is structured.
Riffless. Yeah, it is a built-in. It's a lot better than you think of, like the 4 friends, 6 friends just kind of living life. And it's like we have to force something to happen in their lives. Whereas when a police precinct, you have unlimited stories. I mean, these shows could go on forever. I think it's only 7 seasons. But, it doesn't ever get stale with there's another bad thing that happened in the city that we have to figure out. So that's always awesome.
Yeah, I feel like if you go back and watch Friends, which is something that I've been watching a little bit, just because it's just it sometimes it feels like too much of a commitment to watch a movie, and sometimes it feels like too much of a commitment even to watch a new show. So it's just like what is equally available that's already familiar. But
decision making becomes a problem of like, do I want something new? Then I have to pick from 100 things I haven't watched.
Yeah.
And then you just end up watching the same thing over and over again. But yeah.
But a thing with Friends is that it's done so well. And I think that's something that I remember reading back in the day about people, comedy nerds and people, criticizing Friends for being so like polished and sort of formulaic, but people couldn't deny that it was very funny and that you cared about the characters and the plots delivered and it was funny. But I feel like what you see is it's writers and actors executing at the highest level. And so if you do that at the highest level, you can make that kind of show be really funny and entertaining. But it's actually not a very good template for a show, because as soon as the writing isn't as good or the acting isn't as good, then it's just kind of single people in New York doing nothing. And it's a little harder to turn that into like an entertaining show. Whereas Brooklyn Nine-Nine is a little bit more of, I do think they have talented actors and talented writers, but in terms of how hard it is to execute that well, I think you're setting yourself up for success a little better with Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's what it is. The floor of what it could be is just a little bit higher, just always, because at least you have that to fall back on, and you can work around it.
I recently saw, so aside from just TV that's on in the background, kind of, I like Friends. I've been watching that, and on a different note, I Think You Should Leave, which is I mean, I've seen it so many times that it's just sort of, just the background noise of life now. It's just like,
this is a repeatable thing for you. You're like, I can watch it over and over. It's not like a sitcom though, in that it's like an easy viewing, but you find it that way.
Sometimes I fluctuate between I Think You Should Leave and the Detroiters. Have you seen the Detroiters?
Yeah, that's on my watch list.
That's really funny. It's also Tim Robinson and Sam Richardson. Is that his name? No. Is that Richard? is his character's name in Veep. I think his name is Sam Richardson.
Sam Richardson, you're right.
Yeah, those two guys are the stars of Detroiters. Tim is really the star of I Think You Should Leave, but Sam's in it a lot. But the Detroiters is like the same sense of humor, but in sitcom form. So it's a little toned down. It's a little bit more
More
a
palatable.
little less anarchic, a little less crazy, but still that same kind of sense of humor.
Right. Which, if you had only watched the other Tim Robinson one, you'd think that can this guy do a sitcom? It just seems so. His personality and his style just seems so. I don't know, almost against a sitcom. Wouldn't fit. But so you're saying Detroiters works really well.
I think it does. It's like a workplace sitcom. So it's not like a family sitcom where they learn a moral at the end. It's more of a workplace, which I think works better. I'm excited to see the new I think is it The Chair Company? I think that's his new movie coming out that he made with some of the same team that did I Think You Should Leave.
It is. What is this going to be on? Oh, HBO Max. A new comedy series. The poster looks like a horror.
Oh, it's a series? I thought it was a movie. Okay.
It's saying comedy series.
Great.
I wonder if it's going to be 20 or 40 minute. I guess HBO, you can do whatever you want, but how long is it?
They'll go with the 33-minute. Just
the 33 right in the middle. That's kind of the cutoff. If it's over 33 minutes, I'm like, nope, it's a drama now. It can't be a comedy.
Did you see Friendship? I found Friendship. I went in with high hopes. Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson, and great combo. It is full of humor, and it's really funny, but it's a little it's like taking an I Think You Should Leave sketch and extending it for 2 hours, and it's a little too much. It's a little too intense, I feel like. I think you don't really sympathize with the characters in I Think You Should Leave. These are crazy characters that it's really funny to see this little glimpse into their life. But when you're watching it in movie form, you want to actually connect with the character a little better. And in Detroiters, they do that. They split the difference a little better. In Friendship, it's a little just sort of depressing or stressful to watch.
That's a good point about the sketch comedy. Something that works character-wise for 2 to 5 minutes. If you were to put those characters in an hour and a half, it might just be too much of that character. Like they just aren't somebody you want to spend that much time with.
Yep.
Having not watched Friendship, though, I don't know. But that does seem like it'd be a real issue, taking a sketch to a movie. You'd have to really, explore this character, balance them out.
I think you do. I think you just, and I think part of the humor of I Think You Should Leave, just literally couldn't translate to a film. I think the skills in those people could translate to making good films, but I just think what you're getting out of those sketches, you just don't want to see that in feature film version.
Just thinking about that now, you've got sketch comedy, 2 to 5 minutes, and you've got movies, 1.5 hours to 2 hours. In the middle, you've got the sitcom, which is only like 30 minutes, or an episode of a TV show, I guess, can be up to an hour now. So I guess you really have, all time lengths. And you think of certain people, some people are just good at a certain length, some movie directors would never do sketch comedy. They couldn't do it. It'd just be too short.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but could you see Paul Thomas Anderson doing a 2-minute sketch? Maybe, but he does love to write long movies. Tarantino loves the long script. It'd be interesting to see what they would do.
It is a little hard to imagine what Paul Thomas Anderson would do in a 2-minute sketch. And honestly, I'd love to see him try, because I think it could be really fun. But
it's beyond me to question him and his abilities to do that. I'm sure he could do it, but it would just be so weird to picture when you have the skill of writing so well, like these really long, intricate things, to go to something that's 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, Jordan Peele has, has really succeeded at doing the feature film and the sketch. And I think that's, but I mean, but even his feature films aren't, his approach to that isn't the same as Paul Thomas Anderson's. So it's a different kind of feature film.
That's true.
I just saw.
What
was that?
I was gonna say, in that vein, we've also been watching Portlandia, rewatching recently. Have you seen Portlandia?
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Portlandia.
It's so funny. It's so good.
And that's another good show where it's, I like that because it is sketch comedy, but it does have a through line. I mean, part of the idea of sketch comedy is that we're just going to do sketches about whatever, but it is nice to have some continuity there.
You have recurring characters, and you do have like a storyline through the episode, even if it's only like 2 or 3 of the scenes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And just the general, like, this is going to be about Portland. Like,
right. You do have some limitations. You can't just do a sketch about anything. It's got to be more focused. Yeah, that is a lot different than your typical sketch comedy, where anything, that'd almost be really difficult too, in a way of like, you could literally write about anything. How do you choose? How do you narrow it down? It's a different idea.
I remember hearing about Monty Python, so they did the Holy Grail and they did Life of Brian. I'm not sure which. I think maybe they did Life of Brian first and then Holy Grail. I'm not sure the order, but there was a discussion about doing their film The Meaning of Life, and which it kind of has this through line of, we're going to follow like the lifespan, so people at different stages of life, but really it's just sketches. It's not really a storyline like Life of Brian or Holy Grail. And I remember reading that John Cleese was like, this is just a terrible idea. Like, this is not really going to work as a movie, because when you have a longer story, you don't need every joke to be 100%, because the audience is still watching it for the story. And so if there are stretches where there aren't jokes, or there are parts where the jokes aren't that funny, you're still invested in the movie. And so you want to keep your attention, you want to keep watching. But as soon as you're doing a movie that's just sketches, then like every one of those needs to be a hit, or else there's nothing there for the audience, really.
The story can't carry you if it's just individual sketches broken up. Yeah.
And I think Meaning of Life works pretty well because the sketches are good, but I don't think people think of it in the same way as you think of Holy Grail or Life of Brian, that as like actual good films.
As like, from beginning to end, this is a story, a complete story that makes sense. It's all connected. Different thing. I mean,
and it's possible that you could have just as many like winner sections of Meaning of Life as you do of Holy Grail or Life of Brian, but in Life of Brian or Holy Grail, like, you might quote a few different parts of it, but the whole movie had your attention. In The Meaning of Life, like, there are maybe just as many quotable parts or really memorable parts, but the whole movie doesn't stick with you the same way.
All right. That's interesting how I'm glad they did it, to see, what happens when you do a whole movie of just sketch comedy. If you're really good at it, it can still work, but it'd be a lot harder. It's just a lot harder in general to do that.
So that's kind of coming full circle on Friends of if you're performing at the highest level, you can do lots of things, but that's not a great template for others.
You know what you should do when you make a TV show? Just do it really, really well, every single aspect of it, and it's going to work.
That's my advice to everyone. Just do it perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back after this.
Elmer's glue has been the most trusted brand in glue since 1951. The world has changed a lot since then, but Elmer's glue still bonds surfaces together. and it's not made from dead horses. Elmer's glue comes in all kinds of colors, even sparkle. Elmer's glue is the perfect solution for gluing macaroni to paper, making slime, pouring a small amount into the palm of your hand to let it dry out so you can peel a thin layer off your skin and play with it. And it's not made from dead horses. Elmer's glue is the glue for people who need glue. When you need glue, think Elmer's.
And we are back. Let's get into the movie of the week we're going to discuss. And so notable comedy, Battle of Algiers. So tell us a little, what does Letterboxd have to say about it?
Battle of Algiers, or The Battle of Algiers, or I'm not going to try the French. I think it's Italian. It's an Italian director. I'm not even going to try it. I don't know. I'm assuming its original title is Italian, though. Paratrooper Commander Colonel Matthew, a former French resistance fighter during World War II, is sent to Algeria to reinforce efforts to squelch the uprisings of the Algerian War. There he faces Ali Lapointe, a former petty criminal who, as the leader of the Algerian FLN, directs terror strategies against the colonial French government occupation. As each side resorts to ever-increasing brutality, no violent act is too unthinkable. And I did not read the logline before watching the movie. I went in completely blind. And yeah, it is definitely a more serious take on a war movie. I guess no war movie is that unserious, but does seem very, very focused and serious on what it's doing, and you get that right off the bat.
I mean, both in its sort of brutality that it shows, but also in its structure. It's not trying to be a gung-ho, like, okay, we're getting through this battle and here's the obstacle and we need to overcome it to win. It's just structurally, it's more like this is a messy situation. And
yeah, it's not like a fun, this is a battle, let's see how we get through it. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel, I don't know if it's strange to say that some war movies are fun, but I feel like some of them are more fun to watch, and this is not in that vein.
Well, there's a famous quote, I think it's from Truffaut, who said that every war movie is a pro-war movie, in the sense that they're exciting and thrilling, and so they get the audience like excited and wanting to win. And so it's hard to watch a war movie without feeling like, okay, I'm on this team and we got to win. And I think this might be, one of the rare. I think more directors maybe since Vietnam have been experimenting with it, but this is I wouldn't say this is a pro-war movie.
No, definitely not pro-war. And when you consider when it was made in the 60s, you're like, this would be something that'd be pretty extreme. Compared to the other, I'm thinking the American post-World War II war movies that are all pretty positive, kind of, yeah, you would say more pro-war than what this is.
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, and it's interesting reading that log line, because I don't think we meet the French paratrooper commander until about halfway through the movie, right? I mean, he's not like the hero at the beginning. He comes in at least well into the movie, if not halfway through the movie. And I wouldn't say that the movie is structured like, okay, this is his story of how he's going to defeat the enemy. It's much more, we're following a lot of different people. They're kind of all doing horrible things and all suffering horrible things. And this is just the mess of war. But it's interesting that in a log line, like they still want to pitch it as, here's sort of the hero of the story that we need to get behind. But I'm not sure the movie actually does that.
I don't feel like the movie's about any one person in general. It feels more definitely Battle of Algiers. Like that does seem like the protagonist is the battle, and then the characters are kind of just, I mean, I guess that is in how you think about war. The characters are expendable, they come and they go. If somebody dies, that just keeps going on. And the movie keeps going even after the main characters have died.
It seems like it's really defying a lot of movie structure norms in an attempt to sort of shake up how we're looking at war. Did you think that did you find that disorienting, or less entertaining or less engaging, like in the movie itself? Like, we have these norms for storytelling that are norms for a reason, and this is trying to shake that up. But then, does that make it a harder watch?
So it does start off at the end, which I think is a bold move, probably especially for the time, that you see how it's going to end. Really, it's not a happy ending, which is something, right off the bat, you're like, okay, and then they go back and you have all these dates, this is the day, this is the time. And you watch it kind of like a procedural where it's like, this is just the facts of what happened, almost like you would be watching the news in a sense. And it does kind of take you out of right away of this is like an entertainment thing to, even though it still is, you almost feel like you're watching something more real, I think, in the way that they filmed it that way.
Yeah.
Like, it feels like reality based, even though it is, entertainment.
It is. I mean, it is dramatized. I mean, it's based on real history, but you're going to fictionalize little parts of it. I guess it seems like if you have a hero, whether he's on the Algerian side or the French side, or whatever their status is, you're going to then have a more conventional experience of watching the movie. And I think they're trying to avoid that here. But I think it works. I think it feels like confident filmmaking. Like, it doesn't seem like you're not seeing mistakes in it. You're not seeing like, okay, this is dragging on unintentionally. You sort of give them your confidence in terms of, it seems like this is really great filmmaking at work, and so I'm just going to go along for the ride and experience it. And I think, like, every scene and sequence, they're still building up tension and building up, the woman going through the checkpoints. She's not the main character of the movie, but for that sequence, we're really following her journey. And is she going to get through? And what how is that all going to play out? And so I think it still is really good storytelling in those little moments, even if as a film overall, it doesn't have the single main character and their hero's journey or whatever.
Right. The character arcs for everybody. Characters show up and then they'll be gone. They'll be important for a while, and then the movie kind of just moves on without them. I think, again, because the focus is not the characters, it's on the events that happened. And that's an interesting way to make a movie, or to have a focus of a movie, because it's so uncommon. Like, most movies are character driven, and this seems to be event driven. And it's all a matter of how you're portraying these events. And there's some consistency in the characters, but I did think it was harder to follow that way, just as a viewer, being like, oh, is that the guy from this earlier scene? I can't remember where I saw this guy, because it's not continuously following the same people and all that.
It is a little harder to follow, and I think that is a challenge of it. So that leads us to a question. So if this is considered a great film and a great work of cinema, does it actually rank up there? Is this people overrating it, or do you think that this really holds up as a great work of cinema?
Trying to think about going in, I knew it was highly rated, and so that always clouds your judgment. But I would still say, like, after watching the movie, I would still think this is a great movie. And one of the more interesting takes on a war movie, just in its perspective and style, I think that really makes it stand apart, in that it's so different from really anything you see. Even today, I feel like this would be kind of something that if it came out today, people are like, wow, this is unique. This is different than what we would expect. And I think the pacing really is so strong that you never really feel that it slows down at all, or you never get bored. Even though I had a hard time following some characters, they put the dates up and I'm like, is this a previous date or an old date? I can't remember, like, how many days in the future. I wish it would tell me that. And all these movies, like 30 days later, instead of like, or with, this is the new date, just to help follow. And that was kind of confusing. The black and white, I don't think the footage is, really crisp or clear at all, which might have to do with just the restoring of the original film. But as far as like storylines and interest and intrigue, it's really, really well done.
I think that this really holds up as a a really interesting, really unique film. I would totally agree. I think it's one of those films where like sometimes there are great films where you then see 1,000 other films that are trying to copy that one, and it's you have to go back to the original to see what was special about it, but there are a lot of films that are trying to basically do what that one did. This sort of seems more like a film that stands on its own. There are other films that are trying to do a similar thing. The recent film Warfare, I think, is an interesting one that is taking a very stripped down look at a battle. Blackhawk Down is another one where they're trying to be less hero based and a little bit more just these are the events that happened in the battle. So that's an interesting take. There's another film called Holoden, which is it's like a documentary style film, also in black and white, but it's about like an 18th century battle between, I think, Scotland and England, but it's shot as if it's happening live. So it's shot as if it's a documentary made in the 1700s. So like there are some other films that do kind of similar things, but I think this is such a unique film in the breadth of the story it's telling and in its ability to not like the daringness of not having to have a main character that we're really sympathizing with, but instead just following along the whole complicated world of this. And I think it's really interesting in the sort of messages it sends about, I don't think it's 100% clear who the bad guys are or who the good guys are. I mean, I think you could definitely argue that the fight for liberation is, that they're more sympathetic and that the French are the oppressors. I think you could definitely make that argument from the film, but it's not like a film where we've got the courageous rebels fighting against the evil empire, and it's very clear which way the film is leaning. It's more of a focus on just the complications of the battle and the warfare.
It's very sympathetic to the people that are the bystanders, really. All the innocent people that you see, just the brutality that goes around, and almost everybody who's getting injured or hurt is just an innocent person that's just in the middle of the whole war, the whole, differences that are really between the leaders of both sides. And it's just the everyday citizen that gets the brunt of it. In that scene where they go to drop off the bombs, the three women are dropping off the bombs, and then the camera goes like from the bomb, and then it just goes to like her point of view, where you're looking at a cafe and you see all the people. And I think it's really the first time you see like the French people like up close, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, like this bomb's going to go off and all these people are going to die. And like, they didn't do anything wrong, like in and of themselves. They just happened to be there. Mm-hmm. And like how it gives that perspective when you've been following the Algerian, revolt, and you're fully on board with, and you're like, yep, this is the side effect. These are the casualties. And you need to consider that as well.
Exactly what you're talking about is such a powerful part of the movie that it's not like we cut from, okay, you're going on a mission to deliver this bomb, and then cut to she's walking out as the bomb explodes, like it might be in another movie. Instead, it's, we're going to spend the time all along the way seeing all the people that are going to be affected by this, and we have to feel that. And I think that's a really powerful statement that the film has. So I think this is really worth seeing. It's maybe not in one battle after another. It seems like the character just rewatches Battle of Algiers like over and over again, which seems like a weird. I'm not sure this is a rewatchable. Every weekend we're going to put this on and have a party, but I definitely think it's worth seeing.
It's not like, hey kids, come watch Battle of Algiers with me. This is our family movie. This is more of a, you watch it one time and you got to give yourself some time to digest and move on. And maybe in a couple of years you watch it again. That'd be somebody who's watching this every day would be an interesting person, which, maybe they should make a movie about that guy.
That's yeah. All right, now let's have a little fun with this. It's a great movie to have some fun with, but it's it's a very serious film. But if we are putting our screenwriter, filmmaker hats on, and we're thinking of, okay, the studio comes down, they love this property, but they want to remake it, but they want to, what if the studio says we want to make it this way versus that way? So thinking about, they want to take Battle of Algiers, but they want to make it family friendly. They do want to make this the film that you watch with your whole family, that you can revisit. What would you do? How would you make the family friendly version of Battle of Algiers?
I mean, that's a tough ask from the beginning. If you were looking for like a G rating,
I think G rating. I think
impossible.
and I had two different angles on this that I was thinking, but
Go ahead.
Well,
I cannot think of a G rating version of this, so I'd be interested to hear what you got.
I mean, I guess the two different angles that I have are either you go the Lion King route or the sort of like tangential route. I haven't seen the movie Boy with the Striped Pajamas, and I have not heard good things about it. So I'm not
seen that one. Not a great movie, but yes, I know what you're talking about now.
But like, I could see a take on this that is like, we're going to show the story, in the general theme of, war is messy and hard and innocent people suffer. And like, wouldn't it be nice if we could just get along? Which I'm not sure wouldn't it be nice if we could just get along is the point of the movie, but
No.
It might be for the family version. I think if you had and I think they're called like the Pinot Noir, but like the French Algerians and the Algerians, if you had, a kid from one family and a kid from the other family, they're striking up a friendship while all of this is going on. And so we're really following, it's kind of like, maybe it's like Stand By Me, or it's like, or Sandlot. they're playing soccer together. Maybe it's a soccer movie.
Yeah.
The kids playing like pickup soccer while all of this is going on. And, in the end, that's rocked by an explosion or the kids need to move away. And that's sort of the sad ending. But it's all along, we've been seeing sort of like the more innocent kid friendship. And that's what we've been sort of tracking through the movie while all of this craziness is going on.
It'd have to be character driven then, where you have a kid character that's kind of, things happen around them. It'd almost be like a toned down version of like Jojo Rabbit, where the kid is kind of the main character, but it's also Nazi Germany,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jojo Rabbit is a rough one. I'm not sure that's a family movie, but I think like that kind of, like, we're going to be following the kids and the kids are having fun and they're having fun, but they're also facing hardships. And it's sort of that take on the film.
Yeah.
The other family idea I had was more like the Lion King route, which is we do basically the story of Battle of Algiers, but we make it animated animals. And so then we can get away with all sorts of stuff.
And that might be the only route that actually works, because you could definitely do it then.
I mean, so it's like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like A Bug's Life, or it's like we have these, or it's like we have these animals here, and then there's the invasive species that's come and taken over, but but every individual like is still an individual, and we'd love for them to get along, but there is a fierce battle between the animals that were here first and the invasive species that's taken over. And, and there's lots of back and forth about that, but because they're animals or bugs or whatever it is, like, it doesn't seem quite as harsh and serious. I think and you have great songs. You would need great songs.
Right. And have songs about it. And it'd be much more, you'd have to choose a side probably of the Algerian independent side. Like, you'd have to favor them. I don't think you could show both sides as evenly, the more balanced approach. It'd have to be here's our hero, he's going to save the day, that type of thing. And you probably can't have him.
Definitely would.
At the end, he needs to get away. He can't die. But that's doable.
I think that's doable. I think we could write those songs and then animate it. So if we could get together like $100 million budget, we can make the
This is
family-friendly
right up.
animated version of Battle of
Someone
Algiers.
would love to have a go at this story.
So we're going to start up a Kickstarter. We'll
Yeah.
put a goal of like $100 million. If we can raise that, now, and you know the way Kickstarter works, if we don't raise the full 100 million, then we don't do it at all. But if we can raise that 100 million, then we'll move forward with the animated version of Battle of Algiers.
Animated version with whatever animals we decide. We can still vote on that.
That's right. We'll have to figure that out. Okay, but what about, so the Hollywood studio comes to us and they're like, no, not family version. That sounds great, but we're not going to do that. In fact, we have no money for it. But if you can make this on a no budget indie level budget, meaning, thousands of dollars. So forget that 100 million. You're going to make this for basically no money. Then we're interested. How would you approach that? What would you do to take this basic story and make it for no money?
So looking this up, this was made supposedly for $800,000, but that was in the 60s. So I still feel like that budget was a little, like that was not no budget. It wasn't low budget. I do think he used real people a lot of the times, which you'd have to continue to do. There's no way you could afford. So like the main general, I think he's a famous French actor. You couldn't use anybody famous for sure. The other issue I think you'd have is there is a lot of bombs going off, buildings collapsing. I don't know how you would keep that in a film with a really, really low budget. You'd have to work around that some way. I think you could still do the fake bombs. You could have a lot of really tense scenes where they drop the bombs off, but the actual footage of people blowing up, ambulance running into the wall, stuff like that, I think that'd be tough to do. You'd have to definitely cut some stuff out or not show it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of I guess it's what your approach is to doing this on a no budget level. And this is an interesting one because it was, like you say, not a high budget film, even though it has so many features that go into a high budget film. But I think just, there's so many extras that they're probably not really paying, and so many things that they probably just got for very cheap. And if you just sort of shoot this guerrilla style, maybe you could do something similar, like you're saying, with fewer explosions. But if you go just shoot it with actual crowds of people and you just don't tell them like you did. Yeah. Like I think if you do that, that would be an approach.
You couldn't pay for all those extras. Like you couldn't have there's so many huge groups of people in this movie. You'd have to work around somehow. That'd be tough.
I think there was a time in the 60s in Italy. I've seen some films like this where it seemed like it was a real trend of shooting with non-professional actors and just lots of people. And I think maybe people were just excited to be in a film, or I'm not sure exactly what the social forces were that made that so attractive or so possible back then. But I just don't think you could do that in the same way now. Mm-hmm. Unless you do really hidden cameras or something, and you're really just in the middle of, there's a film called, it's not Tomorrowland. It's Escape from Tomorrowland, I think, or maybe something like that. But it's like this filmmaker snuck a camera into Disneyland and shot a whole movie inside of Disneyland. And
that's what you'd have to, because it's filmed in location. And I think you'd probably, that would still be cheaper. I don't know. I mean, you couldn't get the sets. You'd have to film on location. You'd have to show up and just start filming. That'd be tough to do. Like they have tanks, you couldn't show tanks. I don't know how you'd get that with the groups. I think if you really just condense the story, and again, maybe you'd have to make it more character focused, you could get around not showing as much explosions, the big stuff.
I mean, it would be an interesting movie or an interesting experiment to try like the women taking the bombs sequence. If you made that the whole movie, and you sort of turn that into a reflection on, there's conversation. They're doing this. We're seeing the people, and there's some conversation about the greater context going on, but we really are only seeing a very, very small part of it. Maybe that would be a way of making the focus so much tighter that you could do it on no budget.
You begin with more of their backstory, how they got into it, and then them dropping the bombs off is kind of a climax of the movie. That could work.
Yeah, I mean, if you shot like some just sort of like quiet scenes, or not necessarily quiet scenes, but like
home life,
simple location, fewer actor scenes, but we're seeing the real life of these people, and then it leads, or it's flashing back and forth, but it somehow is tied together with this bombing sequence that would create the real tension and drama of the story. That might be a way to get at the points of the film while doing it in a more contained way.
Yeah, that'd probably be the route. That'd be the route I would go, at least initially. Those three women, they've got a good story, and that scene is so tense. That's like a good 20-30 for them. That's just really intense.
And when she's got the little kid that she's like taking with her, and you're just thinking about what's going to happen to the little kid. But spoiler alert, the little kid is not involved in the bombing, but it's like, okay, then one more. The Hollywood studio comes to us. They want to do this as a Netflix series, a TV series, instead of a single movie. What do you do?
I think this is made for that. I mean, this
exactly.
Is so just every event, which there's like 10 real main events in this movie. Every one of those could be its own episode. Just the leading up to this shooting, the leading up to this bombing, the leading up to this person who's gets shot. I mean, this would be a great series. You could definitely expand on the world, expand on the characters. There's a lot there.
It totally reminded me. It reminded me more of watching like The Wire or Chernobyl than it did of watching most movies, just in the way that you follow these characters for this length, and it could be, we're doing 6 episodes of the Battle of Algiers, and each episode is following different characters, and they'll overlap a little, but this is the women's sequence. This is the French paratrooper general sequence. This is the FLN like that. We can split it up in that way. I think this would maybe be better as a series than as a film.
If they were to redo it today, that's how they would have to do it. I feel like that's what they would pitch, because there's just so much there. Like, this movie is full of so many good. You get these scenes and you're like, I would take more background on that scene. I would like to know more of how this came about. I think the only scene that they really lengthen out and draw it is the women dropping the bombs off. Like, that's done. You could almost take that segment and make it its own episode, just as it is. But most of the other stuff, it's quick. It's just giving you enough, all you need to know to really understand what's going on, and it just moves on because it's got so much to tell. And today you would really let that, give a lot more background to all that stuff. I think it would work really well.
I think it's pretty obvious from that. But if you were going to do family movie, no budget indie, or the TV series, which one would you do, or would you stick with it as it is?
See, that's the other good thing. Stick with it as it is. If it's made today, I think it's a bigger deal if it's a TV series. I think it probably would be seen more, have more eyes on it, just because TV series now have such sway and are so much more important than they were back then, that this could be like a Chernobyl type event, where you're like, it's only 6 episodes, but it's really intense and really good. I almost feel like that's what I would pitch today.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would not go for the no budget. Although, if you had no budget, I think it's an interesting thing to explore. Doable. The family movie, I think I would just do something different. I'm not sure I would go for that road. But the TV series, I think this, I agree completely with what you said, that I think these days the TV series is the better version compared, like, that would have more impact. And I think that would be probably both more commercial, but also more cultural impact than doing it as a film these days. Just one final question with this: who would you cast in that TV show? It's tricky because it's not one main character. So like, who even are you talking about? To like, what roles are you talking about casting? But I guess any people that come to mind.
See, thinking about that, I'm almost thinking you do the no big actor role for something like this, like a bunch of relatively unknown actors that are still really good, which there's a lot of those, and you really make the story be the focus of the whole thing, that there's not like a person that's selling it. This is just, the story is so good that you don't need any other draw to it.
I think for most of the characters that's probably right. I mean, I think it does seem like when the paratrooper general arrives, like part of the idea is that I think he, as you said, he is a better known actor. Although not to me right now, but he is a better known actor at the time. And I think part of the idea in the movie is that he's kind of come in as a star, that they've pulled in the big guns and he's coming in to solve the problems. And so I think that might work better with a recognizable actor, that we're all getting the message that he's going to come in and make a big impact. And that would work better if he is a bigger name.
Because he is, and that's what it is in the movie. He kind of shows up, and they do the like little stop where they say this is who he is. They give his background on voiceover. That's a good point. Like, if anybody were to be a big star, it'd probably be him. And who would that be? Who
probably
should
Zach Galifianakis?
He would do it very well.
I would love to see that.
A comedy role for that.
I mean, he's just very. I mean, I think of the. A similar role is in Death of Stalin. I don't know if you've seen that, but very good film, Death of Stalin. And Jason Isaacs plays General Zhukov, who like appears as like, there's been all this infighting about who's going to take over after Stalin. And then the big World War II, like victorious general arrives, not to be in charge, but to sort of provide some stability as they transition. Anyway, so he appears as this like very powerful figure who sends the message, I'm going to be like, when I'm arriving in power.
Right.
So I guess that's where my mind goes to, like that kind of character, that kind of actor. So I guess I'd go with Jason Isaacs.
The essence of that is reminding me, that's a great one, of I don't know why this movie is also just seems similar to like in Zero Dark 30, you've got Kyle Chandler, and he just plays that role of just really confident military guy who knows like what's going on. Like he comes in so confident, and he's always confident. I guess at the end, a little different, but like that personality, I feel like he could do a really good job of that. He wouldn't be like so big of a star that he overshadows everything, but he's really like, he's big enough and he's such a good actor. I think he'd do really well in that role.
I mean, he's very sympathetic. I feel like, but maybe that would be good.
You need that
because like he's sort of like by default you expect that character to be the bad guy, but having the actor be someone that you like might add some complexity to that.
Because when he comes in the movie, you just automatically don't like him, but he is a very likable character and he plays it like in the actual movie, he plays the role very sympathetically. Like you find yourself like, I don't want to like him, but I understand where he's coming from. Like I don't hate the guy. I understand him. And that's what you're going to need, I think, to not make just, this is just a villain who we hate, but a guy with multiple sides, can we see how it goes?
And, structurally, just getting back to the movie in general, like, and I'm just thinking of that Letterboxd log line, but if he came in at the beginning of the movie, you would, of course, assume that he's the hero of the movie. But, and I think that's such an interesting thing that the film does, that, like, it sets up, it's playing with your expectations, like that the audience is expecting this guy to be the hero. Like, even the people in the Resistance or the FLN, like, they don't seem super heroic. There aren't like characters that we really latch onto as this is the hero of the story. The only person who seems like the hero of the story is the French general, but the film makes it clear, like,
he's not the hero.
We know that you expect him to be the hero, but he's not the hero.
Right. That is a good point. Because nobody else in the movie really stands out as like, this is who I'm drawn to. Like, he's the only guy. He's got like, his character has the glasses, the shades that he puts on, which gives him like an iconic look. Nobody else really has an iconic look. Nobody else stands out in the crowd. You know where this guy is. And I think that was intentional. And so if you were to do that today, I think that's what you would follow. Get a main actor for that and a bunch of relatively unknowns for everything else to really let the story be the focus.
I think so. I guess a final verdict on Battle of Algiers. I would say great film, worth watching. Probably not worth an every Friday night with the family watch, but I would say worth watching. Everyone should see it once. And if they want to do it as a TV series, I would sign up to watch that. That's sort of my final verdict on it. What would you say?
I loved it. I thought it was really well done. It's not a movie that I would recommend to a lot of people unless you are, you've seen a lot of movies. Just like good movies, I don't think it's up a lot of people's alleys in that it is kind of dark. Definitely worth the watch, though. I think it's really well done. I probably won't rewatch it anytime soon. Would love to see an update, a new version of this as a docuseries directed by Tarantino after he finishes his 10th movie. I think that's the way to do it.
I would love that. And there we have it. Thanks for joining us for this episode of How to Make Films and Influence People. Check us out at howtomakefilmspodcast.com, and we'll see you next time.